It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, October 1st. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine today, cooler than it has been, but it is fall already. The high 68. Tonight and overnight, cool and clear, low 51. And then Thursday is much of the same. Sunshine, high 66. If you're walking out the door with us right now, it is 57 and clear in Rye up in Westchester County, 58 clear in Frenchtown over in New Jersey, and it's 59 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
This is the Top 5 at 5.
The government shut down. How long will it last? The men who want to be mayor savage each other on the campaign trail. New York lawmakers could soon make magic mushrooms legal. Lots of tears for 2 New Jersey teens killed while riding their bikes. And another local school district may hire armed guards. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. The government has partially shut down, began at midnight last night after Congress failed to approve a new spending bill. President Trump spoke ahead of the shutdown, which he knew was about to happen.
As you know, no country can afford to pay for illegal immigration, health care for everybody that comes into the country, and that's what they're insisting. And obviously I have an obligation to not accept that. That would affect everybody.
Democrats, Republicans each had their own spending bills that failed to get passed on the Senate floor yesterday. Tens of thousands of federal workers will be furloughed as a result.
Well, the Democrats want to shut it down, so when you shut it down, you have to do layoffs. So we'd be laying off a lot of people that are going to be very affected.
And the president says this shutdown could be an opportunity for him in the White House.
We're doing well as a country, so the last thing we want to do is shut it down. But a lot of good can come down from shutdowns. We can get rid of a lot of things that we didn't want, and they'd be Democrat things, but they want open borders. They want men playing in women's sports. They want transgender for everybody. They never stop.
All right, so here comes the blame game. Everybody pointing the finger at each other. Colorado Democratic Senator John Hickenlooper says he's getting support from federal workers for digging in against Republican spending measures.
Who kind of grabbed me and said, I've worked for the federal government 15 years. I'd hate to lose my career, but don't you back off. Don't you let them run over you. Stand up against this, dictatorial president.
Hickenlooper says the spending bill, as is from House Republicans, would have kicked millions of Americans off health insurance exchanges.
You lose those 4 million people. I mean, that's somebody's neighbor, somebody's family member throughout not just Colorado, but throughout this country. These are people that are already paying as much as they can.
All right, and then you have Senate Majority Leader John Thune. He's the one from South Dakota, says the blame for Democrats. He blames the Democrats, I should say, for the shutdown.
The Democrat caucus here in town, in the Senate, has chosen to shut down the government over a clean, nonpartisan funding bill.
Okay, so the Democrats' proposal would have funded the government through October 31st, while the GOP's would have funded the government through November 21st. So, enough of the blame game. I could keep playing these bites, but let's tell you how it affects you. So air traffic controllers and most TSA workers considered essential workers, they'll have to stay on the job, even if that means working without pay while the rest of the federal government shuts down. U.S. Postal Service, that works normally. Social Security, VA, other benefits, those will continue. The people who are in the process of processing their applications, there could be delays there. So the biggest impacts, though, will be felt by federal workers and active duty military service members who will not receive a paycheck during the shutdown.
We need the government to stay open so that we don't have to live off our credit cards, that we don't have to take multiple loans just to pay our mortgage, to pay our daily necessities. Because
the shutdown happened towards the end of a pay period, the first full paycheck missed for federal employees would be October 24th. Well, for the military, it would be October 15th. So here's the shocker. The only salaries the federal government are obligated to pay, according to the Constitution during a shutdown, will be members of Congress and the president. However, some elected officials can request their paychecks be deferred while a shutdown shutdown is ongoing, and some have already done so. In the lead up to the shutdown, the White House has also threatened these mass layoffs, or what they call a reduction in force of federal employees. We'll have to wait and see if that happens. The last government shutdown was during the last Trump administration, during his first term in 2018, and that lasted 35 days. All right, 5:05. A new report from the Daily News says Mayor Adams put a former girlfriend on the city payroll and withdrew from the mayoral race days after the woman resigned and said she was about to publish a tell-all book.
The report from the Daily News says City Hall has confirmed Adams dated Jasmine Ray about a decade ago. In 2022, Adams appointed Ray sports czar, a position he created that pays more than $161,000. She quit on Friday to release a book about the, quote, hidden relationship she had with the mayor. Adams quit the race Sunday. Before joining the Adams administration, Ray ran the United States Wall Ball Association, a local nonprofit. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
WABC News Time 5:05. The MTA did what we knew they were going to. They approved a fare hike yesterday for subway, bus, commuter rail, bridge and tunnel crossings. At their board meeting yesterday, members signed off on this plan to raise a single subway and bus ride from 90 cents to $2, starting, or I should say, from $2.90 to $3. That's the actual number. So 10 cents raise for single rides. That will begin in January.
We are committed to keeping fare increases small and predictable, which is how we ended up proposing only a 10-cent increase to the base fare.
MTA Deputy Chief Jesse Lazarus says LIRR Metro North riders will fork over 4.5% more on average. Easy Pass drivers will pay between 20 and 60 cents more at MTA crossings. The MTA did tweak several things from the original proposal, including increasing the 7-day unlimited subway and bus fare by $1 to $35. They were going to do it $2, but they decided on $1. It was originally set to go up to that $2, but because of those hearings, they heard from the riders, and that was one thing they said they were willing to change.
That improving this increase is fiscally responsible thing to do, and ultimately necessary to ensure the long-term health of the MTA.
All right, so what do riders think? Well, what do you think they think?
More? Wow, not for that service that we get. 3 is not that bad. Like, I'm not going to cry over 10 cents.
For me, it's not really the big of an issue, but for other people, they count their pennies. It's tough in this city.
All right, so the fare effects, they'll go in early next year, early in 2026. WABC News Time 5:09. Perhaps Steve Cohen, the owner of the Mets, will have better luck with a casino than he did with his baseball team.
The New York Mets postseason is a no-go, but team owner Steve Cohen got a yes for his proposed casino. A Queens Community Advisory Committee gave Cohen's Metropolitan Park Casino proposal a unanimous thumbs up on Monday. It would turn a 50-acre parking lot near Citi Field into an $8 billion sports and entertainment complex. There are 3 downstate slots available for the license. The State Gaming Commission will decide among 4 proposals in December. Lisa Ritchie, 77 WABC News.
Let's head up to the Hudson Valley, where some lawmakers up there expressing disappointment following a court decision that's tied to the shuttered Indian Point power plant.
The criticism follows a federal court's decision to allow the decommissioning of the Indian Point power plant. Rockland County Executive Ed Day says New York's Save the Hudson bill has allowed bald eagles, sturgeon, even dolphins to make a return to the river, and he argues allowing the power plant's parent company, Holtec, to discharge contaminated water would undo decades of progress. He says that would be an environmental travesty. Several local leaders held a rally against the decommissioning of the plant, saying the Hudson River is not a dumping ground. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
WABC News Time 5:10 down to Washington, D.C., where President Trump's laying the foundation for National Guard troops being sent into Portland.
Portland, Oregon, where it looks like a war zone.
The president says he spoke with the governor there, Tina Kotek, who told him Portland isn't burning down and that police are arresting demonstrators outside of ICE buildings that break the law. City and state officials say the president is using some video from 2020 demonstrations to make his case.
Your place is burning down. I mean, you must be kidding. Sir, we have it under control. I said, you don't have it under control, Governor, but I'll check it, and I'll call you back. I called her back. I said, this place is a nightmare. I get a call from the Liberal governor. Sir, please don't come in. We don't need you. I said, well, unless they're playing false tapes, this looked like World War II.
And the president also vowing to send the military into 2 California cities in order to crack down on crime there.
What they've done to San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, they're very unsafe places.
He says both San Francisco, L.A., run by radical left Democrats.
And we're going to straighten them out one by one. It's a war from within, controlling the physical territory.
Both the mayors of those cities say they don't want the Guard coming in. 5:11, let's go overseas, where world leaders are awaiting Hamas's response to a peace plan from the White House. Correspondent Matt Bradley reports Hamas has been given 3 to 4 days to make its decision on this proposal.
The ball is very much in Hamas's court. Hamas has already indicated that while they're reviewing the plan, the Gaza Media Office, which is run by Hamas, had said that this was a poisonous plan and that this is basically trying to legitimize Israel's war in the Gaza Strip.
Now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has agreed to the deal, which calls for the release of all the hostages and the flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza. It also calls for Gaza to be governed by a transitional authority that would not include Hamas. Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, Indonesia, Pakistan. They've all issued this joint statement welcoming this 20-point plan, calling President Trump's efforts sincere.
The Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, several Muslim and Arab countries and Western countries who had moved towards recognizing Palestinian statehood, they have all signaled that they agree with and support this plan to end the humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip and to release all of the remaining hostages. It also says that President Trump would be leading a board of peace that would also include former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, and they would be governing over a transitional authority that would include Palestinians, but not Hamas. It looks as though Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu has compromised on some level in order to agree to Trump's plan. Hamas, though, will have to compromise even more if they're expected to agree to a plan that would end the war that has so badly damaged the Gaza Strip and killed tens of thousands of civilians.
Now, there was some signs yesterday that Hamas was ready to agree to this deal and was heading to Qatar to let them know, but we have not heard much since then. 5:14, let's bring it back home. Down to Florida, Hurricane Imelda, has formed off the southeastern coast of the U.S. now.
The National Hurricane Center says it could become a Category 2 hurricane as it heads towards Bermuda later this week. Even though landfall isn't expected in the U.S., the impacts of Imelda are being felt down the entire East Coast. A man in Florida died after being pulled into the ocean by a rip current. Imelda and Hurricane Umberto, which is spinning further out in the Atlantic, are causing massive waves that lead to the dangerous rip currents. I'm Mark Mayfield.
5:14, a direct-consumer drug buying website that's called Trump RX has been unveiled by the president. He made the announcement from the Oval Office yesterday saying Americans have been paying the highest drug prices for years.
Pharmaceutical companies make 75% of their profits from the United States.
With Trump X, Americans will be able to purchase certain drugs at a discounted price negotiated by the government.
Today, Pfizer is committing to offer all of their prescription medications to Medicaid, and it will be at the most favored nation's prices. It's going to have a huge impact on bringing Medicaid costs down.
Basically, the president says it just comes down to drug prices need to be a whole lot cheaper for Americans.
This is a critical step forward to our work and to improve health care, and hardworking, low-income Americans, especially low-income Americans, will be helped so greatly.
And the president also announcing a deal with Pfizer to lower their drug prices. 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, where we see and find a very sad Justin Ellick. Good morning, Justin.
I'm all right. Not over yet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you told me before that you thought it might be over. I mean, it's not officially over.
Well, statistically, Noam Laden, these series do not go 3 games. They just don't.
Right, so the Yankees lost last night.
Yes.
They get a chance again tonight, right?
The winner of Game 1 in these series, since this expanded playoff platform, I guess you could call it, Noam Laden in the MLB, I believe not one team that has lost the opener of this new wild card series has gone on to advance. And only 2 or 3 of these series have advanced to a third game.
Well, there has to be a first team to do it, so maybe it's the Yankees.
Maybe it is.
Yeah.
Maybe it is. But not if you're going to pull your ace one out into the seventh inning.
How much were you
nobody on base
screaming at the television last night?
Well, I just knew exactly what was going to happen. I mean, this Yankees bullpen has been reeling now for a while. Really, the second half of this season, they've turned into a shell of themselves. And the second, really, you see Boone come out of the dugout, and he's going out to pull Max Fried after 7 1/3 stellar innings of shutout ball. It was not a good feeling I had in my stomach, I'll tell you that much.
And you saw what was coming.
I saw exactly what was coming. And then Luke Weaver couldn't throw a strike, and then when he could throw a strike, it was right down the middle, and I could hit it. And we obviously saw what came after that. Yanks lose that opener 3-1, the opener of this wild card series against the rival Boston Red Sox. So it puts their backs up now against the wall before they play for their season in Game 2 tonight. We'll talk about how good back Max Fried was. How about Boston's Garrett Crochet retired 17 consecutive batters in a sparkling pitching performance for him, and pinch hitter Masataka Yoshida lined a 2-run single off reliever Luke Weaver that sent the Sox past the Yanks in Game 1. The Yankees did load the bases with nobody out in the ninth, but all-star closer Aroldis Chapman, you remember him, worked out of a jam against his former team. Boston is 10-4 versus its longtime rival this year, and halfway to winning the best of 3 playoff. The Game 1 winner, like I said, Noam, advanced in all 12 previous wildcard series, 10 in sweeps. Crochet did give up only Anthony Volpe's second inning homer and improved to 4-0 against the Yankees this year, throwing a career-high 117 pitches in a marquee duel of ace left-handers with Fried. And that's really what we should have seen at the end of the night for Fried. He came out with, I believe, 101 pitches, maybe even 99. But in my opinion, you got to ride your ace in these games. And the broadcast team analyzing it, saying, you might need him for another 6 or 7 starts along the way. But, hey, can we figure out tonight first? That's my thought on that deal. Game 2 is tonight in the Bronx. Again, Aaron Judge and the Yanks needing a victory to extend their season and 2 in a row to advance to the ALDS. The lefty Carlos Rodon will get the start for New York and what will be a 6 p.m. first pitch from Yankee Stadium. Elsewhere around the wild card sets yesterday and last night, Tigers beating the Guardians 2-1. Game 2 is this afternoon at 1 p.m. from Cleveland. Your final between the Cubs and Padres. Cubs beating the Padres at home 3-1 there. Game 2 this afternoon at 3 p.m. from Chicago. And late last night, the Dodgers beating up on the Reds 10-5. Game 2 tonight, 9 p.m. from Los Angeles. That's your Sports Gnome. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:20. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth taking the stage yesterday before this unprecedented gathering of U.S. military commanders in Quantico, Virginia. He brought with him this message.
The new War Department golden rule is this: do unto your unit as you would have done unto your own child's unit. Would you want him serving with fat or unfit or undertrained troops? Or alongside people who can't meet basic standards? Or in a unit where standards were lowered so certain types of troops could make it in?
Now, in his remarks, Hegseth railed against DEI, politics infiltrating the military, and said the message he's hoping to convey is that they have to do a whole lot better.
This administration has done a great deal from day one to remove the social justice, politically correct, and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department, to rip out the politics. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses.
From Quantico, Virginia, we head back over to the White House, where the president yesterday was signing an executive order to boost childhood cancer research funding.
Recommendations made by Secretary Kennedy and the MAHA Commission. We're doubling that investment, adding another $50 million to Childhood Cancer Data Initiative. We're doing that immediately.
President says researchers will use AI to take data that's been collected for years to put it into practical use.
With this order, I'm also directing the federal government to fully utilize artificial intelligence to supercharge pediatric cancer research. It's pretty amazing what's happening. For years, we've been amassing data about childhood cancer, but until now, we've been unable to fully exploit this trove of information and apply it to practical medicine. Using cutting-edge AI, we will empower our scientists and researchers to discover new treatments, cures, and prevention strategies. AI can also make groundbreaking trials and therapies, and it's just going to be so accessible to everybody, families.
522, let's head from Washington over to Iowa, where the Republican senator there, Joni Ernst, says she can't understand why Democrats in her state are fighting for this Des Moines public school superintendent. We had told you about the superintendent was picked up by ICE for being in the country illegally. His name is Ian Roberts, was set to resign after ICE took him into custody for being an illegal immigrant with no work authorization. But he was superintendent of schools there. Here she is.
And he also had that previous gun charge and now has another gun charge, $3,000 cash just floating around in a school vehicle and a hunting knife.
Senator Ernst says she can't believe people on the left are protesting for his release and for him to be reinstated.
And not only that, but hold a very prominent position with the Des Moines public school system as their superintendent. It is hard to understand why the left is supporting this gentleman when he has broken so many laws here in the United States of America.
Lawyers for Roberts filing a petition yesterday to stay his removal from the country as illegal proceedings are taking place. WABC News Time 523 down to Florida, where attorney Benjamin Crump says there has been a pattern of injuries before a wheelchair-bound man died after riding the Stardust Racers roller coaster at Universal Orlando. He says this has happened before. Crump represents the family of 32-year-old Kevin Rodriguez Zavala, and he says Universal was aware that other people who were not disabled were complaining about restraint problems on this roller coaster.
If they believe that disabled people should not be on this roller coaster, then why would you assist him in getting on the roller coaster?
So Crump is demanding that the ride be shut down until it is safe for all. Investigations have been concluded, but Universal has already settled another case involving an injury on the same ride, and the roller coaster is, well, it was still rolling as of yesterday.
We're calling for the ride to be made safe, and that ride should not go back into operations until all of the investigations have been concluded. The responsibility lies at the feet of Universal, not at Kevin or his girlfriend, not at the disabled community, not at the previous riders who were injured.
Park officials maintain the ride is safe, did not malfunction, and that they have no connection to that disabled man's death. 525, cases of the common cold are rising across the country.
The CDC reports common cold viruses are at the highest level since 2022. These cases typically peak in September before the flu season starts. The CDC says flu cases remain low for now, but that could change soon. Weather shifting combined with kids back in school could bring an active flu season. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Out to Inglewood, California, where somebody stole 2 hawks from SoFi Stadium. That's where the Chargers play. The birds there are tasked with keeping nuisance birds away from the stadium. George Herrera, he is the falconer who manages the Raptors, and says they keep pigeons and seagulls away from the lake area outside of the stadium. And, you know, those birds can be a real nuisance for fans.
Everybody knows you go to the beach, you feed them, a big group of them come back. So we want to prevent that from happening here.
Inglewood police asking the public's help in locating the Harris Hawks, or the person who may have initially taken them. Herrera says the Hawks were in green containers in the back of the stadium, so they can't figure out if someone did this on purpose, if someone grabbed something thinking it was something else.
There could be birds on the ledge, and as soon as they see me pull up, they leave because they know who we are.
Yeah, so far they have not found those birds. 526, a new survey of aspiring first-time home buyers is finding that 1 in 6 say they're giving up on the American dream of ever owning a home. Steve Cates is a financial analyst at Bankrate, where their study found there are 2 main factors that are driving people away from buying homes right now.
Interest rates is one of them, but prices is the other. And together that makes a pretty heady cocktail
of just unaffordability.
And Kate says finding a starter home requires prospective buyers to expand their search to areas outside their preferred area, consider homes that maybe need a bit of renovation, or adjust expectations on the size of a house.
When you look at the amount of appreciation we've seen just in the last 5 years, and you combine that with the interest rates that ramped up after inflation in 2022, the monthly costs to hold a mortgage are now excessive. One of the particular impediments for people buying a home is that they consistently want to look in their area. And so they're limiting the scope of where they look, and that is hurting their ability to do it.
And he believes TV shows such as those on HGTV, which some of those shows are great, and similar channels are creating this unrealistic expectations for young home buyers.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, October 1st. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine today, cooler than it has been. It is fall, high 68. Tonight and overnight, cool and clear, low 51, and then Thursday kind of the same thing. Sunshine, a little cooler, high 66. If you're walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 57 clear in Rye up in Westchester County, 58 and clear in Frenchtown over in New Jersey, and it's 59 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 5:39. The government has partially shut down after Congress failed to approve a new spending bill. President Trump speaking ahead of the shutdown that began at midnight.
As you know, no country can afford to pay for illegal immigration, health care for everybody that comes into the country, and that's what they're insisting. And obviously I have an obligation to not accept that. That would affect everybody.
It'll be a day of people pointing fingers at each other, blaming each other for the shutdown. Here's Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer.
We see now Republicans are plunging America into a shutdown, rejecting bipartisan talks, pushing a partisan bill, and risking America's health care.
Okay, so what does this mean for you? Air traffic controllers, TSA workers, they're considered, thankfully, essential workers. They'll have to stay on the job. Even that means working without pay. Postal Service, that'll be up and running. Social Security, VA, and other benefits, they will continue. But if you're in the process of processing some forms between any of those government agencies, that may not happen over the coming days. And perhaps the biggest impacts will be felt by federal workers and active duty military service members who will not receive a paycheck during the shutdown.
We need the government to stay open so that we don't have to live off our credit cards, that we don't have to take multiple loans just to pay our mortgage, to pay our daily necessities.
Now, because the shutdown happened towards the end of a pay period, the first full paycheck miss for federal employees would not be until October 24th, but for the military, it's going to be October 15th. Now, the only salaries that get paid according to the Constitution are members of Congress, the people who have shut down the government. They'll still get their paychecks. Now, they can defer them, and some have already done so. The government last shut down during President Trump's first term in 2018. That one lasted 35 days. Let's hope they can get it together before that happens. 5:41. Did you stay up to watch the Yankees game? Well, you didn't have to stay up that late, right? It started at 6 o'clock. Did not end well. They lost 3-1 up in the Bronx. Yankees manager Aaron Boone says he still has faith they can come back and win the next 2 games, which they have to do because it's best out of 3 and they're down 0-1.
Every single day. So tonight was a great baseball game that, we just couldn't get that final.
Was it really a great baseball game? You lost.
A punch in. So we'll be ready to go, and I expect us to come out and get one tomorrow.
Yeah, checking in with Yankee games before the Yankee fans before the game, who were all hyped up for it.
It doesn't feel real yet until we get here.
I feel pretty good. I mean, this first game is probably going to be the hardest one, but after that, I feel like we should be able to take it.
Well, he was right about that.
It's the best feeling ever. As a diehard Yankee fan, as being in the Bronx, there's no better feeling than fall baseball in the Bronx.
Yeah, he didn't feel that way about 9:30 last night. Here was a Red Sox fan who snuck in last night.
Yeah, of course. I'm from Boston. We know we're going to take it tonight.
Yeah. All right. Game 2 of the best of 3 tonight is up in the Bronx. Justin will be up in about 3 minutes with more on that game. Out to New Jersey. Cranford, New Jersey, where they are in mourning after two teenage girls riding their bikes were hit and killed by a car in an apparent hit-and-run crash on Monday night. We had told you about this yesterday. Now we know who those teens are. They're both 17 years old, Maria Niotes and Isabella Salas. They were on e-bikes riding in their neighborhood at about 5:30 when a 17-year-old behind the wheel of a Jeep Compass ran into them and killed them.
I don't think any of us had a decent night's sleep because it could be our own. So you put yourself in their shoes and you come out and you support it.
Yeah, I have a 17-year-old, so I can really sympathize with what these parents are going through. I mean, just awful.
Beautiful young girl, very good student, very friendly, always helping the parents out. She's got a brother, and beautiful young boy, beautiful. I hugged him last night, and I said, there's no words I can say to make this any easier for you. And all he said was, they killed my sister, and what do you say?
Yeah, the driver initially drove away, this teenage driver who was, we've been told, is 17 years old. They haven't named him. But he drove away from the scene. They caught up with him a short time later. And police are now asking for anybody who may have a doorbell camera or who witnessed this crash to come forward. And there is some people in the neighborhood are suggesting that this teenager who was behind the wheel of that Jeep may have run into these teens on purpose. Let's hope that's not how this story ends, but that may be what they're investigating here. That is, neighbors try to console the family of these two teenage girls.
I used to do choir with her, and I remember joking around with her.
They're both very sweet and compassionate people.
I believe if you have faith, you can move mountains and you can move forward.
Yeah, so we'll, of course, continue to follow the investigation into this driver ongoing as we speak. 5:44. 34 days now until Election Day here in the city. The top two candidates in the polls, Zohran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, pounding the pavement yesterday outside of NYPD headquarters. Andrew Cuomo insisted that Zohran Mamdani has some explaining to do about his stance on the NYPD.
He is a member of an organization called the Democratic Socialists of America, DSA. They have the position currently to abolish jails. They would disband, defund the police.
Now, Mamdani, he fired back. He told reporters that defunding the NYPD is not anywhere near what his platform is.
Our focus is about addressing the retention crisis, delivering on public safety, and ensuring that officers are actually able to do their jobs.
Now, there was a back and forth on billionaires yesterday. It was an interesting conversation, and we'll hear from what New Yorkers think about the latest on this race. We'll do that in just a moment. But first, 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Ella.
Thank you, Noam Layden. Start here out in the Bronx. Yankees wasted a stellar outing from their ace, Max Fried. Lost 3-1 in the opener of their AL wildcard series against their rival Boston Red Sox, putting New York's backs up against the wall before they play for their season in Game 2 tonight. Boston's Garrett Crochet retired 17 consecutive batters in a sparkling pitching performance, and pinch hitter Masataka Yoshida lined a two-run single off reliever Luke Weaver that sent the Sox past the Yanks in Game 1. New York loaded the bases with nobody out in the ninth inning, but all-star closer Aroldis Chapman worked out of the jam against his former team. Boston is 10-4 versus its longtime rival this year, and halfway to winning the best-of-3 playoff series. The Game 1 winner advanced in all 12 previous wild-card sets, 10 in sweeps. Crochet gave up only Anthony Volpe's second-inning homer and improved to 4-0 against the Yankees this year, throwing a career-high 117 pitches in a marquee duel of ace left-handers with Max Fried. Fried pitched shutout ball for 6 1/3 innings, but Yankees bullpen that had a 4.37 ERA during the regular season, 23rd among the 30 teams, faltered once again. Manager Aaron Boone, he did speak following the game regarding his decision to pull Max Fried after just 7 innings and 1/3 with nobody on base, and here's what that sounded like after the game. Aaron Boone.
Aaron, Max Fried was dealing tonight. What was the thought process behind taking him out to go to the pen there with nobody on and 1 out in the 7th?
Yeah, just they pressured him pretty good in the fourth, fifth, sixth. Had a couple base runners each inning.
Fourth, fifth, sixth.
So I felt like he kind of cruised through the first few, and obviously he ends up pitching great. But I felt like he had to work pretty hard, and I was going to have the 6 be at the end. But once we got the double, we finished with the double play. I wanted to go out and get Duran, and then felt like we were lined up.
Well, things can change. Things can change in a baseball game. No, Mladen, right? So maybe the decision you came up with prior to the game to pull your ace left-hander after just 6 innings. Maybe we could amend that decision at some point throughout the game, no?
You would think so. Did you hear the other quote from Aaron Boone last night? This one will get you even more upset.
Oh, you going to play it for me?
Yeah, because he said that he thinks the team played well last night.
Every single day. So right. Tonight was a great baseball game.
Tonight was a great baseball game. That's exactly what he said. It was a great baseball game.
Yeah,
they lost, but it was a great baseball game.
Great baseball game, and the and the offense just shuts down in these big games. So they're going to have to wake up tonight. Carlos Rodon on the hill, another lefty for the Yankees. He's been great all year. So if I'm a future teller here, I see Carlos Rodon, another strong outing tonight, and hopefully the Yankees bats wake up. And if not, man, you're playing golf tomorrow all of a sudden. At least it's still warm out a little bit. You can get some good rounds of golf in before it gets chilly. Your other finals from around the league. The Tigers beating the Guardians 2-1. Game 2 is this afternoon at 1 p.m. from Cleveland. Cubs beat the Padres 3-1. Game 2 in that set this afternoon, 3 p.m. from Chicago. And late last night, the Dodgers doubling up the Reds 10-5. Game 2 tonight, 9 p.m. from Los Angeles. That is your Sports Noah, man. I'm Justin Ellick, 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:15. Let's head back out to the campaign for mayor. It was Zohran Mamdani going after Andrew Cuomo, and Andrew Cuomo firing back on who's contributing to each other's campaigns. Here's Zohran Mamdani.
While I'm fighting for Eric Adams' voters, Andrew Cuomo is fighting for Eric Adams' donors. Andrew Cuomo has received $500,000 from Trump-supporting billionaire oil executive John Hess, $750,000 from Ronald Lauder, the man who's inspired Donald Trump's desire to purchase the land of Greenland.
And Cuomo fired back.
He takes dirty money. From who? His PAC took $100,000 from the Council on American Islamic Relations Unity and Justice Fund, an organization whose leader said that he was, quote, happy about October 7th.
And New Yorkers continue to say this is all kind of interesting to watch, this mayoral race play out.
They've been arguing and fighting and going on. I haven't seen anything about them getting along. Have you? No. They have been fighting and carrying on like little kids in a schoolyard.
Yeah, kind of. 34 more days left of this. 5:51, over 600 parents have signed a petition online on paper to bring armed security guards into the Islip School District out on Long Island. They brought their concerns last night to a Board of Education meeting, parents asking for armed and trained qualified security guards to be on all school campuses.
We need to have a better line of defense to protect our children while they're in school. There's armed security everywhere protecting you. Why are we not doing the same for our children?
People are saying about militarizing the school. That's not what this is for.
Now, there have been no specific threats against the Islip school that sparked this petition, but they say, just the average school shooting, which has become all too regular, is the reason they're coming forward with this petition.
I'm hoping it becomes a deterrent more than anything else, so that nothing is even approached the schools.
Now, we got a little bit of the school board meeting last night. The school board member says they will take up the idea at a future meeting.
Security here is a priority. We're always looking at risk assessment.
Yeah, so they'll have a community forum where everybody will get to weigh in. This parent, not so sure that she wants the armed guards outside her kid's school.
Do I think that sends a mixed message to students who are now becoming young adults? 100%. And that's where I would think that there would be a different resolution.
Now, at last count, 20 school districts across Long Island do have armed security right now. That's about 17% of the school districts on Long Island. There is a legalization push going on now in New York State for psilocybin. Psilocybin is the ingredient in magic mushrooms. So there was a hearing held yesterday by the State Assembly Committee on Health to look at the medicinal value and risks of psilocybin, better known as magic mushrooms. And one of the people pushing for this is a retired firefighter, New York City firefighter, who says he lost a lot of friends on 9/11 and was having a hard time coming back from it. And he says psilocybin, magic mushrooms, saved his life.
Nothing that any of the doctors had prescribed for me even came close. I come to you today to ask that you pass legislation that will allow us access to this substance in a legal way and in a way that promotes safe consumption.
Now, psilocybin, magic mushrooms, not legal under federal law. Some states, though, like Oregon and Colorado, allow supervised psilocybin treatment for adults 21 and over. But here in New York, it remains illegal. So that was part of this push yesterday at the Senate Health Committee, State Senate Health Committee.
Psilocybin has been granted breakthrough therapy status by the FDA for a number of indications.
The question before us is not whether there is medicinal value and risk. The question is whether we will create a framework that protects well-being, educates the public.
I mean, it's interesting to watch these assembly and state senators listening to this hearing yesterday, and they say, okay, well, now that we hear all this information for and against, we'll make a decision.
We need to look at them with a fine-tooth comb and get the elements of all of them to be the best they can be, to reflect what we're listening and learning about.
Sort of amazing. If you had asked me as my teenage years if I thought that weed would ever be legalized, I would say no. And now magic mushrooms on top of that? Amazing. 5:55. More companies are trying nostalgia advertising. We get more on that from WABC's Wall Street reporter Joe Connolly.
Several brands are using promotions from the 1990s and early 2000s to create emotional connections to a simpler time with less stress. McDonald's is bringing back its Monopoly game for prizes. General Mills is bringing back retro cereal boxes. Coach is opening coffee shops in their stores to build gains with Gen Z shoppers. Some brands are selling retro fashions and using older music and jingles to reconnect. They say the more senses involved in marketing, the stronger the pull. Joe Connolly, 77 WABC News.
And we've been watching these long lines out in Brooklyn, outside the Brooklyn Academy of Music, for Jimmy Kimmel. He's doing a week of shows here in the city. And, of course, you'll remember it was just last week that he was suspended by ABC. Well, now I guess it's 2 weeks ago over the comments he made about the murder of Charlie Kirk. Well, he was back on the air mid last week, and now he's doing these shows out of Brooklyn. And the lines have been long with people anxious to see him.
We just entered in over the weekend, and we just put a little blurb we love Jimmy Kimmel.
We definitely did not think it was going to happen, so when we found out it was going to happen, we jumped on the opportunity.
The second that we saw he was coming to Brooklyn and other people talking about it, and especially since he just got back on air, it's definitely a great opportunity.
Yeah, some of the people in line say they were there to show their support in the aftermath of that controversy.
He's just so blunt and honest and speaks the truth about what we're all really feeling about politics.
New York City has always been a big supporter of him, and we're a hub for free speech. This is the place.
Super thrilled that he's back on the air too. I mean, this is super exciting for us.
Yeah, it's been kind of an all-star lineup too. He brought on Stephen Colbert. That's not surprised, whose show is being canceled. Bruce Springsteen, Spike Lee, Emily Blunt, Tom Hanks, all going to be guests this week.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?